Just when you thought we were over and done with a powerhouse eclipse, well, guess what? We've got another eclipse around the corner. That's right, August the 28th, we got a partial lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. And this is a finale eclipse because the nodes have moved out of the Pisces and Virgo axis, and now they are in the Aquarius and Leo axis, where the eclipses will occur for the next year and a half or so. So this is an ending of some sort. This is a clearing out, a cleansing, a karmic resolution. Let's get into this eclipse. You can even see this eclipse as a intense full moon on 1,000. Even though the nodes are on the Aquarius and Leo axis, this is still considered an eclipse because it's in a close orbit to the nodes. Now, this is a partial lunar eclipse in Pisces at 5 degrees. So the sun will be in Virgo and the moon will be in emotional and intuitive, sensitive Pisces. So there may be a lot of emotion in the atmosphere, a lot of sensitivities, a lot of dreamy energy also, because Pisces is ruled by Neptune, but also there's a lot of spiritual emphasis on this lunar eclipse. Now, usually when you think about a full moon or a lunar eclipse, it is about something coming to an end, a conclusion. Particularly with a eclipse, it has a lot to do with karma, if that is a concept you resonate with. And particularly this energy, it's not something that you haven't experienced before, because if you think about what's been going on in your life for the last year and a half or so, the very strong themes and major life events that were probably impacted by these eclipses. Those energies were probably related to the area of life that these eclipses were activating and shifting in your life. And I'm going to go through all the 12 zodiac signs and share with you where this eclipse is coming to its finale karmic ending. Now, speaking of finale karmic endings, this eclipse is not just emphasizing on something coming to an end or something finishing or coming to its resolution. It's also emphasizing on change, because we've got a major player in this eclipse. So on one hand, we've got the sun, and then we've got the moon in opposite directions, but then we also have Uranus, which is making a major aspect towards the moon and the sun. In this very intense T-square. Uranus is known as a planet of change and innovation. It can bring unpredictable situations, it can bring surprises and shocks, sudden changes, as well as excitement and innovation in your life. When you look at Uranus from a more spiritual, esoteric perspective, you can also see planet Uranus as a planet that can bring a lot of quantum shifts and jumps. So things can rapidly change directions. Just when you think you have a handle of something, well, guess what? Here comes Uranus, changing and shaking things up. So even though we're focusing on this area coming to a conclusion, there still is this energy that is supporting you to move on away from this energy and apply the wisdom, the knowledge, the experiences you have gathered and apply it to the future. So there's also not only the areas of life where the sun and the moon will be activating and impacting that will go through some sort of change, but also the area of life that Uranus is currently in is also being activated during this eclipse. So let's get into it. I'm going to go through all the 12 zodiac signs, and the timestamps will be down below. Aries, Aries rising. Just when you thought we were done with eclipse energy, well, guess what? We got another eclipse around the corner. Yes, that's right. We've got a partial lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. And this eclipse is occurring at the end of 4 degrees, so if we round it up 5 degrees. And this eclipse is a finale eclipse. It is the last final eclipse in the Virgo and Pisces axis energy point. And if you look at the last year and a half in your life, there may have been a persistent theme, and that was perhaps regarding where the nodes were activating in your chart, which were the 12th and 6th house. But now the nodes have moved. They have moved into the Leo and Aquarius axis. But nonetheless, this is still considered a partial eclipse because it's still closer to the nodes. So this eclipse is coming in strong because it has to do with the last year and a half, and it is the final clearing. Think of a full moon, but amplified. A full moon is about things coming to an end, a finale, a conclusion, a resolution. It can also be a culmination point, something particular in your life reaching its peak, or a moment that really brings a lot of clarity, renewal, or a complete transformation. Now, for you, this eclipse is activating your 12th and 6th house axis. The sun will be shining in your 6th house of daily life routine, as well as wellness, self-care, and work, an energy, an area of life that has been very perhaps prominent in your life for the last year and a half. And with the sun here, there's also a lot of focus here. There's still a lot of energy and a lot of passion here. But also you've got Mercury in your 6th house joining the sun, so there may be a lot of thinking, a lot of analyzing, because Mercury will be in Virgo, and perhaps a lot of brainstorming or reevaluating, or even a lot of communication regarding this area of life. But on the other end, we've got the moon being emotions, sensitivities, intuition in the 12th house, and the 12th house is the last area in the zodiac wheel, and it rules a number of things. Because it's the last area, it can have to also do with endings, or it can have to do with karma, if that's a term you resonate with. Not everyone does. To me, karma just means balance, where an energy needs balance. This could have to do with a situation, again, that has been prominent in your life for the last year and a half, and perhaps there's a lot of just reflecting emotionally on it, even spiritually, and really trying to purge this energy out. But there's a lot coming up. There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of sensitivity, and that's why grounding and tapping into the sun in the 6th house and Mercury to balance out the energy. Now, that may, depending on what's been going on in your life in the last year and a half, of course, varies from chart to chart, because everyone's natal chart is unique. But there may be this strong theme of reflecting of the past, or even feeling slightly just isolated, because the 12th house, like I said, last zodiac area in the zodiac wheel in astrology, and when we have planets in the 12th house, that could say a lot about being alone, or feeling a little isolated, or feeling a little secluded, or spending a lot of time to retreat. But you got to be careful with the 12th house, because if you retreat too much or for too long in the 12th house, it can create an imbalance of some sort, and it's not a proactive area of life. And therefore, it's important with the sun and Mercury in the 6th house, particularly in Virgo, it's to tap more into that energy, because the emotions are going to be very strong. And there may be this clarity that comes through not only just you and you reflecting and the emotions, but also this is a very spiritual area of life. Pisces being a very tuned in, intuitive energy, so there could be an epiphany of some sort, intuition that comes through that really supports you to move forward and begin anew, or brings a lot of wisdom and a lot of spiritual strength to persevere and move to the next level. For those that have been really on their spiritual path, or perhaps you have been really tuning in and tapping into your natural gifts and abilities, this may be a very strong theme coming through for you as well. For those that are creatives, this may be a time also where you kind of reach a new peak in your creativity or your creative endeavors. But there is a letting go, there is a shedding, and there is a releasing, and it's got to do with the energy that you've been going through for the last year and a half, okay? So a big spiritual cleanse is on the way. Taurus rising, let's get into the lunar eclipse that's occurring on August 28th in the sign of Pisces. This is a finale eclipse, so whatever has been occurring in your life for the last year and a half, particularly pertaining to the 11th and 5th house, this energy is now coming to an end, and it's not going to impact everyone, but more so those that have any planets in the mutable signs such as Pisces, Virgo, even Gemini and Sag at 5 degrees or close by. Now, if you think of the last year and a half with the eclipses in the Pisces and Virgo axis, the 11th and the 5th house have been super charged up. The 11th house is a house of friends, groups, networks, and also your hopes and wishes for the future. And the 5th house is a house of play, fun, leisure. The inner child lives there. This is the area of life where you can find your natural creative gifts and abilities. It has to do with self-expression. It's the fun area of life. So those two energies have been super strong. And now we've got a finale eclipse where the Sun and Mercury will be in your 5th house in Virgo. So there's a lot of light, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy and focus when it comes to happiness, joy, pleasure, when it comes to creativity, self-expression, or even when it comes to romance and dating, because the 5th house can also rule that as well. And there's a lot of communication, perhaps a lot of creative brainstorming, a lot of expression regarding your thoughts or your just expressing yourself through speaking, or if you are into singing or public speaking, that could also be the case with Mercury in the 5th house. So that's where there's a lot of focus. And then you've got the moon, emotions, sensitivities, intuition in the 11th house. This could be an emotional time when it comes to friends, groups, your networks, particularly with friends, perhaps. This could be a time where you're feeling more sensitive or more in tune, or this could be also a time where you're feeling very creatively and intuitively inspired regarding hopes and wishes for the future. Take a look at your chart and take a look at where 5 degrees of Pisces or Virgo is, or are there any natal planets you have in those signs, and particularly close to the 5-degree mark, because then this eclipse can be more potent for you. So that's where it's getting activated. And because it's a lunar eclipse, there is an emphasis when it comes to endings and things coming to a finale, a resolution of some sort, the energy reaching its peak, or there could be a renewal of some sort of release, or even just a full-on transformation regarding both areas of life, but particularly the 11th house. Now, Uranus is in Gemini, and it is also very much a strong player in this eclipse chart because it's triggering this eclipse. Uranus is known as a planet of innovation and change and shifts happening, and it can, if you look at it from a spiritual lens, it can be like a quantum jump type of energy for you, because now it's moved out of your sign into Gemini. It's in the 2nd house of self-worth and what you own and resources. So that is also a theme that is very much strong regarding this eclipse, and there could be some surprises or some shift or change regarding that area of life that is connected to the 11th and the 5th house. So Taurus rising, wishing you all the best. Take care. Gem rising, let's get into this partial lunar eclipse in Pisces happening on August 28th at 5 degrees. This is particularly going to be impacting those of you that have strong Pisces, Virgo, Gem or Sag in your chart. Specifically, if you've got 5 degrees of any of those zodiac signs or close by, this is going to be a much more stronger eclipse. Now, this is a finale eclipse because it's a final eclipse in the Virgo and Pisces axis. Now, the nodes have shifted. They've moved into the Aquarius and Leo axis, and all the new eclipses are happening in those signs. However, this is still close enough to the nodes, therefore it's still considered a eclipse, but this is a final one. The final one in the Virgo and Pisces energy point. Now, if you think about the last year and a half, what has been a very strong theme for you in your life? We're looking at the whole sign house system. The 10th and the 4th house have been really going through major shifts and changes and have been getting activated in the last year and a half by the Pisces and Virgo eclipses. And with this finale eclipse happening in the sign of Pisces, there is this major shift and shake. And that shift and shake has to do with career goals, ambitions, home, family, sense of belonging, but also identity and life path. And here's why. So you've got the sun in the 4th house in the sign of Virgo, where there's a lot of limelight, a lot of focus, a lot of energy regarding home, family, your personal life, and your sense of belonging. Then you've got the moon And where the eclipse will be occurring in the 10th house of career, goals, and ambitions. The moon is emotion, sensitivity, intuition, particularly in the sign of Pisces. So there's a lot of emotion being felt regarding career goals and ambitions. And this may be something you're more sensitive towards, something that you're feeling very emotionally connected to. And perhaps there's a lot going on emotionally in this area of life. But then here is the shakeup. Uranus, the planet of change and innovation, is also triggering the sun and the moon and is a major player in this eclipse. And it's in your sign. It is in your sign at 5 degrees of Gem, in your first house of you, identity, life path, and purpose. And because it is triggering both the sun and the moon, there could be changes happening in both the 10th house and the 4th house. But remember, this is a finale eclipse, so there could be a sudden shift or change, but it has to do with something coming to an end, a resolution, a conclusion, something moving towards a peak, or there could be some type of renewal, release, or just a major breakthrough or transformation. Okay, so again, take a look at your chart, because this is really impacting those that have 5 degrees or any planets close to that 5-degree mark in the sign of either Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius even, and Gemini, where Uranus is currently at. So this is going to be some type of breakthrough, but that breakthrough may require a lot of shedding, a lot of releasing, and it can also be very much freeing, and it could feel very liberating. There's also a lot of communication, a lot of conversations happening in the 4th house, whether that be regarding home, your personal life, or with family, because you've got the sun and Mercury in a conjunction in this eclipse chart. But emotionally, you're more connected to your 10th house of career, goals, and ambitions. But there's also at the same time a major shakeup happening when it comes to your identity, who you are, what you want from life, and the path you are taking. And you may even have to make some choices, and you may feel like you're at crossroads. So Gem Rising, all the best, take care, speak with you soon. Cancer Rising, let's talk about the partial lunar eclipse happening on August the 28th in the sign of Pisces. So the sun will be in Virgo and opposite will be the moon in Pisces. Now, even though the eclipses have shifted into the Aquarius and Leo axis, and that's where the new eclipses are occurring, this is a final eclipse in the Pisces and Virgo axis. This is considered an eclipse because it is close to the nodes, and therefore this partial eclipse is acting as a real cleansing, a spiritual cleanse, clearing out, a release, spiritual release, a peak moment, a renewal of some sort, or even perhaps a culmination point where a major breakthrough or a transformation can occur. Now, this energy is something that you are perhaps more connected with, especially the themes of it, because of the impact it has been having on your zodiac for the last year and a half, where it has been impacting the 3rd and the 9th house axis. The 3rd house being the area of life that rules over our mind, how we communicate, how we process information, and even how we socialize. And the 9th house being the area of life that rules over how we expand our mind, our horizons, even when it comes to like spiritual enlightenment or just enlightenment in general. And that could be through many different avenues. It could be through traveling, foreign places. It can be through spirituality, a spiritual path journey, philosophical beliefs. It can be through education, or like I said as well, like traveling and really expanding your mind through those experiences and adventures. So there's many different ways we can expand our horizons, but particularly for this eclipse, it's really activating in the 9th house because that's where the moon will be. So there's a lot of emotion, a lot of sentiment, and a lot of intuition, and a lot of spiritual connection here, where the sun is in the 3rd house, where there's a lot of focus on thinking and learning and processing information, and also communication is a key theme during this eclipse because you've got Mercury, which is also the planet of communication, in the 3rd house. So there may be some important conversations that occur during this time, discussions that set you free in some way or allow you to move on to the next level or next version of self and the next step in your spirituality. And there seems to be a lot of focus on spirituality in your spiritual journey, because not only do we have the sun and the moon really activating when it comes to your mind, but Uranus is a major player in this eclipse. And Uranus in Gemini is currently in your 12th house. And the 12th house, it rules over a number of different things. And one aspect of the 12th house has to do with higher consciousness. It has to do with our connection with divine, universe, God, spirituality, our spiritual gifts and abilities and intuition and dreams and creativity. So these three areas of life that have a lot to do with mind and wisdom and expansion and spirituality are really being activated. So you may be going through some type of spiritual awakening or a spiritually enlightening time, or where you're just expanding your awareness, your mind, your wisdom, your horizons, and it develops you in a way. It helps you to move to the next version of self. But remember, this is a full moon energy. So there is a lot of clearing out as well. So as you do expand your mind and as you do move forward, there's a lot that's shedding, a lot of perhaps old beliefs and old ways of doing things or believing, or how you felt connected, or the beliefs that you had previously, or what you felt like you resonated with in the past. Perhaps that's all fading away, and that is part of the journey. That is part of the spiritual journey, where a lot of the old beliefs you've had and the old ways of how you felt connected, that's all shedding. And perhaps through communication and talking to other people and learning more, there may be a shift in your perspective, a shift in your beliefs, and like I said, developing further through the old shedding and releasing, and a transformation occurring. So really spiritual time for you. Wishing you all the best. Take care. Hi Leo, Leo rising. I hope you're doing well. I hope this total solar eclipse that you have just had has been a good one. I would love to know what's been going on for you. Leave a comment down below. But we're still in this total solar eclipse energy, but at the same time, we're getting ready for another eclipse. That's right. August the 28th, we've got a lunar eclipse in Pisces. And even though the nodes have shifted into the Aquarius and Leo axis, this is still considered an eclipse because it's close to the nodes. And for this lunar eclipse in Pisces, this is a finale, because this is the last eclipse that's occurring in that Pisces Virgo axis energy point. And the last year and a half, we have had the eclipses in both of those signs. So this eclipse is very much connected to the last year and a half and the themes of the last year and a half, especially connected to the eclipses. Now, this being a lunar eclipse, it has that full moon energy of endings, things coming to a end, chapters closing, a release, a letting go, a renewal, a culmination point, an energy growing to its peak, and a breakthrough occurring, or a complete transformation. Now, for me, I'm looking at this as a deep spiritual cleanse, because it's in Pisces, a watery energy. It is ruled by Neptune, and it is also the final eclipse in that Virgo Pisces axis. And therefore, it is a spiritual cleanse, and for you, it is happening in the 2nd and 8th house. And the 2nd house is where the sun will be in Virgo, with Mercury as well. So the sun is shining in your house of self-worth, resources, what you own. And you've got Mercury there as well, so there's perhaps a lot of thinking, reevaluating, analyzing. That's Mercury. Perhaps a lot of communication, but communication and a lot of focus overall. But then at the same time, emotionally, because the moon is emotions, it's sensitivities, it's intuition, that is in your 8th house. Now, the 8th house has a couple of different interpretations. You've got the 8th house, which you can see as an extension of the 7th house, where the 7th house is committed relationships. The 8th house is taking relationships to the next level. Just think about marriage, for example. It's more than just the romance and the love and the commitment. It's the what is yours is mine, and there's a life you share and everything else that you share, such as the material realm and possessions and what you own. That is something you have to share between you, and that's very much the 8th house as well. The 8th house also has to do with intimacy and deep spiritual transformation. It also has to do with shared resources, shared finances, what you own or share with someone else, a third person involved. So this is going to be different for everyone, of course, because everyone has a unique chart and your placements are going to be unique. Take a look at if you have 5 degrees or 5 degrees of Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Gemini, any planets in those signs at 5 degrees or close by, because that will be much more stronger in terms of the manifestation. But because this is an ending of some sort, this could also be just letting go of something or a conclusion of something that has been ongoing regarding matters of the 8th house or even matters of the 2nd house, because the 2nd house is also connected. This could be also a resolution of some sort, or perhaps just a complete transformation. If this is impacting you more on a spiritual level, this could be a time where there is this huge spiritual release, this spiritual transformation, this spiritual cleanse, because the 8th house, you can really tap into the mysticism and there's a lot of transformational energy in the 8th house. It's a very spiritual area of life once you get past the mundane layers of it. So this is going to mean something completely different for everyone, but think about the last year and a half and what has been ongoing, because that theme is coming to its finale. It's coming to its resolution. It's getting cleared and it is getting transformed so you can move forward. Sometimes it's just that residue energy left that needs to be cleared away. Now we also have Uranus really triggering this eclipse. And Uranus is at 5 degrees of Gem. Uranus will be in the 11th house. The planet of innovation change is in the house of friendships, groups, networks, your social life, and your hopes and wishes for the future. So there could be matters of the 11th house connected to this eclipse, connected to matters of the 8th house and matters of the 2nd house. So again, this is going to mean something completely different to everyone. But take a look at your chart. Where is Uranus currently transiting? And where is 5 degrees of Pisces, Virgo, or even Sag, and like I said, Uranus being in Gem? Where are those in your chart? Because those areas of life are being triggered and activated, but in a way where there's a cleansing. And intention is everything, especially because this is a full moon, it's a lunar eclipse. So being intentional of what you're ready to let go of. This is a chapter coming to its end, its finale, and its closure. And I know you've just had the total solar eclipse where that's more about new beginnings and it's a creational energy. It's about new chapters, new cycles, and then at the same time you've got this finale, this cycle shedding. And it's similar to what I said in my monthly horoscope forecast, that we're having this month where things are shifting simultaneously and there's beginnings, there's endings happening all in one go, and we got to really catch up with it all. I'm wishing you all the best. Take care. Speak with you soon. Virgo rising, let's get into this finale eclipse happening on August the 28th, where the sun will be in your sign and the moon will be in your opposite sign, Pisces, and you are one of the zodiac signs that is being impacted the most by this eclipse. Now, this eclipse is happening right at the end of 4 degrees, if we round it up 5 degrees, and it is a finale eclipse. You've been going through this energy for the last year and a half. And there have perhaps been many shifts in your life. This is a final eclipse in that Pisces and Virgo energy point. Now the nodes have shifted. They've shifted into the Aquarius and Leo axis where the eclipses will now occur. But because this eclipse is close enough to the nodes, this is still really significant in terms of what you've been going through for the last year and a half, because it's impacting the themes of the last year and a half. And if we look at it from the whole sign house system, the 1st and the 7th houses have been very much activated and have been going through major changes. And for this finale eclipse, you've got the sun in the 1st house of you, your identity, life path, purpose, goals when it comes to what you want to achieve from your life overall. You've got the sun there, but also Mercury there. So this is showing there's like a lot of thinking, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of reevaluating, and perhaps a lot of planning and a lot of conversations, or even travel, because Mercury can also rule over travel when it comes to your life. And then opposite, you've got the moon. in the 7th house. Now, the 7th house doesn't necessarily rule over us, that's more so the 1st house. The 7th house is the area of life that rules over other people. So it can be significant people in your life, people that you have a strong connection with. It could be a relationship, a marriage, a significant other. It could be some sort of partnership, or even somebody you have conflict with. The 7th house is not all just lovey-dovey. It can also rule over people you have conflict with or have opposing opinions with, or you're not really seeing eye to eye. And that's where the moon is. So there's a lot of emotion coming from that side. It doesn't necessarily have to be you, because the 7th house rules over other people. So this could be probably an emotional time for the significant people in your life, or overall there could be this final shedding, release, a letting go, or a transformation in a relationship. Now, because this is a lunar eclipse, it's got that full moon energy where we're looking at things coming to an end, a letting go, a release, a spiritual cleanse, clearing out, a renewal, or a transformation, or even things coming to a culmination point, a peak. And it involves, like I said, the 1st house, which is you, and someone else, which is a 7th house. This won't impact every Virgo the same way. It really depends on your chart and your planets. If you have any planets in Virgo, Pisces, Gem, or even Sag at 5 degrees or close by, then this is going to be much more significant for you, and it's shedding and releasing and transforming the themes of the last year and a half when the nodes have been in the Pisces and Virgo axis. And then also what's really interesting about this eclipse is Uranus is really in the mix there. Uranus is triggering this eclipse. It's in a T-square, and it is going to be in your 10th house of career, goals, and ambitions. Uranus is known as a planet of innovation, change. It can bring surprises, sudden changes. It can be very unpredictable. In the 10th house, this shows that this is where you're probably feeling like you need to break free, or there's this impatience, or there's a lot of changes or shifts that you are consciously making or are perhaps beyond your control. But it's asking for you to step into true self and then really make this area of life meaningful and feel more liberated in this area of life and channel your authenticity. So career goals and ambitions may also be a huge theme when it comes to this eclipse. So the 1st, the 7th house, and the 10th house are really being triggered for you. Be intentional. What is it you're ready to let go, release of, transform in your life? Wishing you all the best. Take care. Libra rising, let's get into the eclipse. So this is a finale eclipse in the Pisces and Virgo axis. Even though the nodes have shifted, this is still considered an eclipse because it's close to the nodes currently. And it is a finale eclipse because this is the last eclipse in the Virgo and Pisces energy point. This eclipse is occurring on August the 28th in the sign of Pisces, and it's at the end of 4 degrees, so if we round it up, it's 5 degrees, and it is activating your 12th and 6th house axis, particularly the 6th house where the moon will be. Now, the sun and Mercury will be in the 12th house, and the 12th house has many different meanings and interpretations. That's why it can manifest very differently depending on the context of your life and what's currently going on. It won't mean the same for everyone because, of course, everyone's chart is unique. But the 12th house can be the area of life where you can find your connection with the universe, divine. It can rule over spirituality, intuition, dreams. It can also rule over your creativity, creative gifts and abilities. This can also be the area of life that has to do with the past and past lives, if that is a term you resonate with. Often when we look at the 12th house, it can be seen as a karmic area of life because it's a final house in the Zodiac wheel. So it's almost like all the energy that has been accumulated and you've experienced, and it requires a lot of letting go, a lot of releasing, very much like a full moon and what that encourages us to do. When I see interactions with the 12th house, I think it's super important to be very much grounded and have grounding routine or ritual, because the 12th house has a very Neptunian feel where there can be a lot of mystery and a lot of mist, and it can have escaping tendencies as well. And therefore it's important to be very connected with the earth, because in the 12th house planets just want to drift off. And even when it comes to like spirituality, sometimes spirituality
people use it as a way to escape from reality and what's currently going on. Therefore, being very much grounded with reality and having a routine, such as what is the opposite energy of the 12th house, the 6th house, is super important. Now, with the Sun and Mercury, there's a lot of energy, a lot of focus in this area of life. And with Mercury's influence, there may be a lot of thinking, perhaps of the past. There may be a lot of reevaluating, or perhaps a lot of inner dialogue going on. But you need a creative outlet with Mercury in the 12th house so that you can express yourself to the fullest. Now, the moon is going to be in the 6th house, where there's a lot of strong energy because the eclipse is in Pisces. The 6th house has to do with daily life routine as well as self-care, wellness, and work. And that's where the emotions seem to be very much emphasized. And this could be a time where emotionally you really need to take care of yourself or have a routine that supports your emotional wellness or supports you in your self-care, or this may be an emotional time at work. Now, because this is a lunar eclipse, it has a full moon energy. Therefore, when it comes to things coming to an end, letting go, chapters closing, cycles coming to their end, when it comes to a spiritual cleanse, a clearing out, a renewal, a breakthrough, or a transformation. Those are some key words that can be associated with this eclipse when it comes to the 6th house. Now, what's also really much emphasized during this eclipse is Uranus, because Uranus is really triggering the eclipse, the sun and the moon. It's really interacting with the sun and the moon. It's in this T square in the 9th house. Now, Uranus is known as a planet of innovation, change, sudden changes. It can be an unpredictable energy, but the key word with Uranus is liberation. And in the 9th house, this has to do with expanding the mind, the horizon, the consciousness, awareness, and that can be done through many different avenues, whether it's education, traveling, learning, through spirituality or philosophy. So there is something that is also shifting and changing regarding the 9th house that is connected to matters of the 12th and the 6th house. When I look at the 12th and the 6th house axis, it's like bridging the spirituality with the mundane life and bridging them together, maintaining them, and having a balance between both of those areas of life. And that's where the breakthrough, that's where the change, that's where the shift is occurring. And particularly with the 6th house, like I mentioned, that may mean something different for everyone. Perhaps work is really important for you right now, and there's been a lot of focus, and therefore there's this emotional shift or change, or just an overall shift or change that occurs. Or perhaps it has to do with your everyday life and how it's structured and your routine, or perhaps when it comes to your wellness and your well-being, mind, body, soul, and spirit. Libra rising, wishing you all the best. Take care. Scorpio rising, let's get into this eclipse, this finale eclipse in the Pisces and Virgo energy. Now, even though the nodes have shifted into the Aquarius and Leo axis, this is still considered a eclipse because it's close to the nodes. Now, with this eclipse being a finale eclipse, this is an energy you are perhaps used to for the last year and a half because that's where the eclipses have been occurring. Now, this eclipse that's occurring on August the 28th, it's happening at the end of 4 degrees, so if we round it up 5 degrees, the sun will be in Virgo and the moon will be in Pisces. And the areas of life that are being activated are the 11th and the 5th house. So the 11th house is where the sun will be. That's where the light is shining. There's a lot of energy, a lot of focus here. And the 11th house has to do with friends, groups, networks, your social life, as well as hopes and wishes for the future. Mercury is also in the 11th house, very closely conjunct the sun. Therefore, when it comes to being social and networking, being out and about with friends, planning, brainstorming ideas, collaborating, this is something that's going to be very much significant because Mercury is known as a planet of the mind and communication. So there's a lot of communicating occurring. Now, opposite is where the moon will be. So this is the emotions, the sentiment, the intuition in the 5th house. And the 5th house has to do with the house of fun, joy, pleasure. This is where you find your creative gifts, abilities, hobbies, and how you express yourself, as well as this can also rule over romance and dating. And this is where the moon is, so there's a lot of energy here. But because this is a lunar eclipse, it's got a full moon energy, and full moons have to do with letting go, releasing, things coming to an end, chapter cycles coming to an end. But this can also be a renewal a spiritual cleanse, a breakthrough, or a transformation. And perhaps through your emotions and feeling very much emotionally or spiritually inspired, the fifth house can be this creative outlet for you where you can create something that helps you to let go of certain emotions or certain feelings. And in parts of you, this creative outlet can also support you to transform your emotions into something positive. This could also have to do with romance and dating. Now, with the seventh house rules over committed relationships, the fifth house is more so the romantic aspect of relationships and dating, the dating stage. So there could be something significant that shifts there. Take a look at your chart. This is not going to impact everyone the same way. If you have planets at 5 degrees or close by in either Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius, or even Gemini, this is going to be more significant. Now, speaking of Gemini, Uranus is currently in Gemini and it is very much activating this eclipse. Uranus is a planet of innovation. Change can be sudden change, it can be very unpredictable, but it is all about liberation. And in the eighth house rules over a number of different things. It can rule over what you share with others in terms of resources, it can rule over intimacy and deep spiritual transformation. So depending on the context of your life and what's currently going on, there could be a shift there, a change there that is connected with the 11th and the 5th house. So get intentional. What is it that you're ready to let go? What is it that you're ready to release? Because this is a finale eclipse. These areas of life, especially the 11th and the 5th house, have been going through an activation for the last year and a half. So it's an energy you're perhaps very familiar with, and it's ready to really be over and done with, and you're ready to move on from it. But there's just this final eclipse energy that we need to get through. Wishing you all the best. Take care. Hi, Sag Rising. Let's get into your eclipse forecast. So, this eclipse is occurring August 28th. It's a lunar eclipse in Pisces. This eclipse is occurring at the end of 4 degrees. If we round it up, 5 degrees. So, this is a finale eclipse. We have, for the last year and a half, had the nodes in the Pisces and Virgo axis where the eclipses were occurring. Now the nodes have shifted into the Aquarius and Leo axis. Now, even though the nodes have shifted, this is still considered an eclipse because it's close to the nodes. So, where is this activating in your chart? The 10th and the 4th house are really being charged up with this finale eclipse. The sun will be in the 10th house. So that's where there's a lot of light, a lot of energy, and a lot of focus. 10th house being career, goals, ambitions. And Mercury is also in the 10th house, closely conjunct the sun. Mercury is a planet of the mind and communication. So there may be a lot of thinking, analyzing, reevaluating, or perhaps also a lot of brainstorming, a lot of ideas flowing, and a lot of communication occurring regarding career goals and ambitions. Now, in terms of the eclipse energy, not only is it impacting the 10th house, but most importantly, the 4th house, because that's where the moon in Pisces will be at. The 4th house has to do with home, family, it has to do with sense of belonging, and with the moon's energy, it has a lot of emotion, a lot of sensitivity, and a lot of intuition. So this may be an emotional, sentimental time when it comes to home and family. There may be a lot of emotions, you may feel very much emotionally attached to this area of life, or you're feeling very sensitive to this area of life. Now, because it's a lunar eclipse, it has a full moon energy. So when we think about the full moon, we're thinking about words such as letting go, things coming to an end, chapters, cycles coming to an end, a letting go, a release, a spiritual cleanse, especially because this is an eclipse, and also when it comes to renewal, breakthrough, a peak, or a transformation. Now, if you take a look at your chart, if you have any planets in the sign of Virgo, Pisces, Sag, or Gem at 5 degrees or close by, this may be a much more significant eclipse for you. And particularly pertaining to matters of the 10th and 4th house, where there may be something that significantly changes and shifts. And it helps you to move forward from the themes of the 4th house, because this is a lunar eclipse and this is an energy you've been going through for the last year and a half, and it's this spiritual shedding, almost a breakthrough or a transformation occurring to support you to move on to the next version of self. Now, what's also really important in this eclipse chart is Uranus. Uranus is a planet of change, shifts. It can bring unpredictability, sudden shifts and changes. it has a strong association with the word liberation. And being in the seventh house of relationships and other people, there's a lot of shifts occurring in that area of life. This is your opposite area of life. But Uranus is like a key player in this eclipse chart. So it is triggering the 10th and the 4th house. So relationships and other people may also have an influence on the eclipse energy for you, particularly pertaining to career goals and ambitions or home and family. Wishing you all the best. Speak with you soon. Cap rising. Let's get into this eclipse occurring on August the 28th. And this eclipse is occurring at the end of 4 degrees. If we round it up, 5 degrees. And this is a finale eclipse. This is a final eclipse in the Pisces and Virgo energy point. Now, the nodes have shifted. They've moved into the Aquarius and Leo axis, where the eclipses are now occurring. But this is a finale eclipse, and it's still considered an eclipse because it's close to the nodes. Now, with this partial lunar eclipse, it has a full moon energy to it. So when it comes to things coming to an end, a letting go, a cycle, chapter coming to an end, when it comes to release, a spiritual cleanse, that's like a key word within eclipse energy. When it comes to renewal, a breakthrough, a peak, or a transformation of some sort. This is the eclipse energy. It's a full moon on 1,000. Now for you, it's impacting the 9th and the 3rd house. So the sun, which is where there's a lot of energy, a lot of focus, will be in the 9th house of expanding the mind and horizon, which can be done through many different forms. When we're looking at the 9th house, we're looking at higher mind, higher consciousness. We're looking at spirituality, philosophies, travel, foreign places, and education. So that's where the sun is at. That's where there may be a lot of focus during this time for you. And with Mercury, the planet of communication, there may be a lot of thinking, a lot of assessing, analyzing, or perhaps also a lot of communication, or just moving around and going on travels and adventures occurring for you. Now, where the moon is at is where it's going to be more significant, because this is a Pisces eclipse. So the moon will be in the 3rd house. The 3rd house is also known as a house of communication and learning and the mind. And therefore, with the moon here, the moon has to do with emotion, sensitivity, sentiment, and intuition. There may be some conversations that still are lingering around that need to come to a resolution of some sort, which is another key word when it comes to a full moon, that need to be had, and they can be very emotional. And it doesn't even have to be a conversation that leads to a resolution. It can even just be just coming to a conclusion in your mind and coming to a strong realization and getting that closure, receiving that closure and processing it. Because when we're looking at the 3rd house, we're also looking at processing information and processing data. Uranus is a key player in this eclipse chart. Uranus is a planet of innovation, change that can bring sudden changes. It can bring unpredictability, but the key word behind Uranus is liberation. In the 6th house of daily life, routine, wellness, and work is really triggering this eclipse. It's making aspects to both the sun and the moon. So when it comes to your daily life, when it comes to your wellness, your self-care, how your life is structured, and your routines and work, there may be something significant there as well, connected to the 9th and the 3rd house, that shifts and changes during this eclipse. Be intentional. What is it you're ready to let go? What is it you're ready to make peace with? What is it you're ready to transform? Take care. Speak with you soon. Aquarius rising, let's get into this lunar eclipse that's occurring in Pisces. Now, we have just had an eclipse in your opposite sign, and here we are at the end of August the 28th. We've got a partial lunar eclipse in Pisces. Now, yes, the nodes have moved into your opposite signs axis, Leo and Aquarius, where the eclipses will now occur. However, because this eclipse is close to the nodes, it's still considered one, and it is a finale eclipse. Therefore, we are really clearing out this energy. It's a lunar eclipse, so it's got the energy of a full moon. So when it comes to words such as letting go, releasing, chapters, cycles coming to an end, when it comes to a spiritual cleanse, when it comes to renewal, breakthrough, or transformation, this is what this eclipse is about. Now, this is an energy that you have probably gone through for the last year and a half, because the eclipses have been occurring in your 2nd and 8th house when they were occurring in the Virgo and Pisces axis. And the sun will be in the eighth house, so that's where there's a lot of focus, a lot of light, a lot of energy. And the eighth house has to do with what you share with others, shared resources. It has to do with intimacy and deep spiritual transformation. There's many layers to the eighth house, and it can vary depending on what's currently going on in your life. With the sun and Mercury there as well, Mercury will be in a tight conjunction with the sun. There may be a lot of thinking, a lot of analyzing, a lot of reevaluation because it's a Virgo energy. There may also be a lot of communication regarding this area of life. And then opposite, you've got the moon, the emotions, the sentiment, the sensitivities, the intuition in the second house. The second house has to do with you and what you own and your resources, and most importantly, self worth. So, it may be an emotional time regarding that particular area of life, and there's a lot of clearing out, a lot of cleansing, a lot of overcoming, perhaps resolutions, conclusions, or a transformation. And what's also really interesting is Uranus, which is a planet of change, innovation. It can be a very unpredictable energy, but the key word with Uranus is liberation, is also in Gemini, and it will be in the fifth house, and it's making a very strong aspect to both the sun and the moon. So in the fifth house, it has to do with creativity and self expression and joy, happiness, and romance and dating. So there's a lot of changes in that area of life. And because Uranus is your ruler in Gemini in the fifth house, this has to do with your self expression, finding liberation from this area of life. But it's also connected with the second and the eighth house. So there's a lot of changes in the fifth house, triggering changes also in perhaps the second and eighth house. And this may mean something different to everyone because, of course, everyone's chart is unique. But take a look at your chart. Where do you have 5 degrees of Pisces, Virgo, or even Sag and Gem? Do you have any planets in those signs or close to the 5 degree mark? Because if you do, this will be a much more stronger eclipse for you. So be intentional. What are you ready to let go of? What are you ready to release and move forward from? Wishing you all the best. Take care. Speak with you soon. Pisces rising. We've got a final eclipse in your sign. August the 28th, we've got a lunar eclipse in your sign. It is at the end of 4 degrees, so we rounded up 5 degrees. Now, the nodes have been in your sign for the last year and a half in the Virgo and Pisces axis, and that's where the eclipses have been occurring. And there's been a lot of ongoing energy between the first and the seventh house for you because those are two areas of life that have been really activated. And here comes this eclipse, this finale eclipse, where we're ready to let go of the energy of the last year and a half. We're ready to move on from it. This could be a final release, shedding, a final spiritual cleanse, a cycle chapter coming to an end, a transformation, a breakthrough of some sort so we can move forward. Now, this eclipse is, like I said, activating your first and your seventh house. So the sun is where the energy and a lot of focus will be shining its light. The sun in the seventh house of other people, relationships, partnerships, and you've got Mercury tightly conjunct the sun. So when it comes to thinking and evaluating and communication, that is also going to be a key theme regarding other people in relationships. And then you've got the moon, which is emotions and your sensitivities and intuition in the first house of identity, self, life path, goals, and what it is you really want to achieve from this life. So it may be an emotional time, a very spiritually emotional time, and you may be reflecting a lot and feeling a lot. And it's important to ground, having a grounding routine or ritual to support you to really process your emotions and not get so lost and drift away in them, because the Pisces energy can get very much lost in emotions because it's ruled by Neptune. So it's important to be very connected to that Virgo energy, which is your opposite Zodiac energy, so that you can have a balance. And with this eclipse occurring in your first house, there is perhaps something shifting and changing, whether it's old beliefs, old version of yourself, because you may feel like just a new person throughout the last year and a half because you've been going through so many shifts and changes. And when you have eclipses in your sign, they don't just impact the first and the seventh house, they can also impact the 10th and the fourth house and just major life areas. And what's really interesting is during this eclipse, we've got Uranus that is a key player. It's triggering both the sun and the moon in a T-square. Uranus is in Gemini at 5 degrees in the fourth house. Uranus is a planet of change, innovation. It can bring sudden changes. It can be very unpredictable. But the key word is innovation and liberation. And in the fourth house of home and family and your sense of belonging, there's a lot of shifts and changes occurring there. So this eclipse may also be triggered by home, family, your personal life. And the first, the fourth, and the seventh house may be going through a lot of shifts and changes. Take a look at your chart. If you have 5 degrees of Pisces, Virgo, Gem, or even Sagittarius, planets in those zodiac signs and close to the 5 degree mark, this may be a much more significant shift and change and eclipse for you. Be intentional. What is it you're ready to let go of from the last year and a half? What is it you're ready to move on from? Let the universe know. Be clear. Be intentional. And watch it work out for you. Wishing you all the best. Speak with you soon.